Today is a story time day, and the name of this story is Faith, Restoration, and Victory. Because today I'm going to speak to you on those three things: faith, restoration, and victory. Now, if you've been here for some time, you'll know that a year ago last week, actually last Tuesday, I shared with you a video. And in that video, I shared with you how we were losing our rental house that we'd been in for 5 years. It wasn't a payment issue. It wasn't anything to do with the property. It was just like bought by investors, wanted to raise the price, etc., etc. And there were a lot of miracles that unfolded at that time. One of them was that we got to come to this property that wasn't even on the market for rent, had just barely been bought by our then next door neighbor who was an investor, and he rented it out to us. And I fell in love with the property as soon as we were here to visit it. The property, the house needed a lot of work, and our neighbor, Jay, his name's also Hotto, but sometimes it's just easier for people to remember Jay. So Jay came in, he's got a crew, and he took the house apart and put it back together in a pretty quick span of time. And when I shared that video, we had just 2 weeks left because we had exhausted our 60 days trying to reapply to be able to stay in that house. So it had to be a really fast turnover, and the house needed to be brought up, and so and I remember when we toured the property that day, I just felt like things were right. And if you go back and watch that video, then you'll remember how much I talked about faith at that time, and that even though it was an extraordinarily hard time for us right in the middle of the pandemic, that we were really just walking in sheer faith. And so we moved, and we were able to save a lot of the garden, and we had to just kind of start doing life, and life was different. I've never stopped loving the land, but there's things that I never will stop missing until I get them again. Mostly one being a bathtub, because I'm a person that it's not all about washing in a bathtub, it's about soaking and having space in a bathtub. So that's something that I won't stop wanting until I get. I'll always miss the pool. And, it was a different neighborhood, but I believe that things are going to be happening in my neighborhood. The city of Phoenix is making a lot of strides to make improvements, specifically in the area that I'm in, and so I'm real confident about that. But I'll be totally honest with you. That first 6 months was very challenging for me. It felt a lot to me like we were camping, just couldn't really get settled in, even though we had unpacked and we had made all the accommodations that we needed. So even in the midst of faith at that time, it wasn't always comfortable. And I probably felt less comfortable to me because the first thing that I did is come in and made everything as comfortable as possible for everybody else. So that was honestly something that I struggled with. So we moved in here literally like April 29th. And so we've been here almost a month next week. And it was kind of towards the end of summer, September, October, when Jay was like, hey, you guys have said that you'd like to buy the place. Is that something that you still want to do? And we've always been yes, we definitely still think that we want to buy the place. And so at that time, we engaged with a lender, and we kind of started working on the process. And there were just some We just needed to bring some scores up, and that was going to take some time, and we were about to go into the holidays, so we decided to pump the brakes on it, at least to get us out of the holidays. And by this time, I'll be honest, I'd found myself being really deep in the garden and really deep in what was going on in the girls' life. And, by the end of 2021, we, had gotten it took a long time, and I'm going to do a video soon on that, and it had to do with medical. But it took us a long time to go through the recruiting process with our son Noah. But right before Christmas, his proverbial plane sailed, or took off, because he's an airman. But Noah went off to the Air Force, and so that there's a piece in that one of your adult children is, no sir, Winston, no sir. So there's a lot of peace in knowing that something in life is going in the direction that your faith has been walking you through and walking you through. So, as we went through the holidays and stuff, things, we decorated, things start to feel more and more like home. And we come around the new year, we went through Dale's appendicitis, we went through the great sickness. And then in February, Jay's like, hey, where you want to buy this house? Or, if you don't want to buy this house, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a house in the front yard. You guys can renew your lease. You'll have this house and, basically the backyard, but we're going to build another house up there and we're going to rent it out. Because his vision, if he kept the property, was obviously to expand on the multifamily situation, because this property is zoned for multifamily, and there's a lot of multifamily properties in this area, because these larger lots, that was a real profitable way for people to, make income producing properties and, just do something with the space other than just single family, because it was a big lot. So that was like scary in and of itself. It wasn't like, shut up or put up so much, but it felt that way, and it felt like, like I'd just gotten relaxed and feeling like, this is good, we're moving forward, life is kind of coming back to a restored point. And as I come into that word restored, it's good to know, and I want you to know, that at the first of the year, restoration became one of the things that we prayed about. We always thank God for the blessings that He's going to bring us, and coming into this new year, we really started praying hard together as a family for restoration. And I didn't have a clear picture of, I'm always going to get emotional, so excuse me, but I didn't have a clear picture at the time of what restoration looked like. But as we got into February and Jay started talking about, are you going to buy the house, or are you going to keep renting the house, and you're going to now have a very close neighbor on your property. And also with a tenant coming onto the property, that would kind of relinquish our kind of option to buy. The option to buy was never like a formal thing. That's something you can formally do with somebody. You could set up a rental contract and do an option to buy, but a lot of those that you see out there on the internet are definitely shady. And there was nothing shady about this. It was like, we want to rent it, let's try it out for a year and see if we want to buy it. And because it was an investment property for him either way. So, I guess in my mind, though, I was really thinking that, we would start working on buying it like now, not in February. So again, it felt Because February of last year was when the new owners or the new property managers of that other property said, hey, you need to reapply for this property, or you're going to need to find somewhere else to live. And so it was a lot of that came right back up to the surface, just like, and it was really wearing on me. And if you look back at your clock, that's about the time things started to get a little wary in my videos, because then I had to get back on the phone with a lender and start, culminating all that stuff that you have to send to a lender when you're buying a house. And that this would be now the second lender that we're talking to, because I've learned, even though I have a background in dealing with people in real estate, I've really come to understand that there's people that do real estate and there's people that do home loans or loans. People that do it on the side, and then people that do it as professionals, that's really what they do. That's all they think about, that's all they breathe about, that's all they eat, that's what they do. So the second person that we started talking to in February was not that kind of person. That individual, it was more of a side thing. They worked in that office, and that wasn't explained to me in the beginning. The gaps in communication led me to dig deeper, and then that's when I came to understand that I wasn't working with a person that was really working on loan files all the time. And at the same time, I was going to be going into, or we were going to be going into a contractual situation with a real estate agent who was also the seller, and we were opting to not have our own real estate agent. But I still wanted to fill out all my friends, so I felt out a friend of mine who is very near and dear to my heart, Monica. And I talked to Monica about the property. We looked at comps, which I'd been tracking comps, comparative sales, since we'd moved in here, just kind of keeping my eye on the ball. And at that time, Monica said, you know what, if you're not going to have an agent represent you as the buyer, then can you just please use my lender friend. Her name is Melissa. She's with Guild Mortgage, and we're doing a VA loan, because I don't know if you know that my husband is a veteran. He was in the Army, and VA loans can take a long time, usually 60 days at bare minimum. And a lot of sellers really, it's not even desirable to work with a buyer who, sometimes, I don't want to say that all the time, sometimes it can be unappealing to a seller because they usually want a really fast close. So she said, Melissa, I know Melissa's done VA loans in like 30 days. And she's like, Guild Mortgage is their own bank, which I'm familiar with that, but you might not know what that means. And that means that so a lot of people that you talk to that do loans are really brokers, kind of like some of our insurance agents. So they don't work for one bank that loans the money. They are a firm that can sell books of different products. So then they're going to take your information, and then they're going to go out and try to find a loan product from one of these companies that will give you a loan. And so the difference is Melissa and Guild Mortgage, they are an in-house bank. They fund their own loans, they underwrite their own loans. And so, sometimes even if you're working with a local guy, the underwriter can be not even in the state, and so when you're working with a bank that has their own money, then you're working with somebody that gets to know you more as a person, and that can see all the things about you on paper, and that really has the opportunity to work with your credit in a much more intimate way than I would say. So we started working with Melissa, and talking about Melissa is definitely gonna kind of get me a little bit emotional, because she's definitely that professional that I just told you about. Like, she eats, breathes, and sleeps loans, but it's not just the transaction that she is in it for. It's the people. It's the making that difference in lives, because she gets that doing a home loan or refinancing a loan sounds like I'm trying to sell her, but if I love something, I'm going to tell you about it. So, it's not about that to her. It's about getting people through that stressful stage and being that source of support, because I'll tell you, every single time I talk to Melissa, I cried, and I knew all the things she was going to ask for. Nothing about that was hard. It was just that constant impending fear that what happened last year was going to happen this year. But in the midst of that, we were still standing in faith, and we were still praying with so much faith for restoration. And then Melissa has this faith, and she said to me one day, she said, I don't know if you are a person of faith. She's like, but, I want you to know that God has a plan for you. And that right there was when I knew that Melissa was something else. So we're going to get off the topic of just praising Melissa, but you need to work with Melissa if you are in a situation right now where you're trying to do a home loan. So we started working with Melissa. So Jay reached out to us kind of the first week of February, and then I started talking to Melissa on March 14th, and I am just humbled beyond words to tell you that we're fully restored, because last Friday on April 22nd, our house was recorded and funded, and we own this property. It's still so unbelievably unreal to us. And I know this is off garden topic, but I'm not all garden. I'm all purpose mom, and that's what that title's always meant, is that you're going to get more than just garden, and you're going to get more than one thing. Just sometimes I do get super focused on one thing, especially in the last year. It's just a tunnel focused on garden because that's what was keeping me going. So we closed and we owned the house, and I could have made this video on Friday, and I could have made it yesterday, but I want you to know that a lot of times let me back up. I came into this space, and this YouTube space, because I wanted to be a source of light and encouragement. I always say that, but I also wanted what I said to be a representation of my God. And I wanted to, so before I do videos, sometimes, especially if it's delayed, it's because I want to pray on it, and I want the words to come out not to just be blah 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 blah, but I want them to have I want them to have value. I want them to have meaning, and that's why they end up being encouraging, So I had to sit on this until the word was put on me, and the word I want to share with you right now is not just rah rah rah, like Jared got her house and Jared gets her land and she gets to do everything that she wants to do, and her family's secure and they don't ever have to worry about being evicted. All they have to do is pay their mortgage, and we are fully capable of doing that. But what I want to speak to you about today is that either you or somebody you know, and if you're lucky enough that it's not you or somebody you know, if you live in Greater Phoenix and you can drive around and you can see that people are having hard times in their lives, you right now could very well be having a hard time in your life. And what I want you to know, from if you go back and watch those videos about when we were losing the house, and you watch any of the videos over the last year, you saw me still showing up. I may have been late, I may have been delayed, but it was faith that kept me showing up. It was faith that kept pushing me forward. It was faith and just totally knowing and believing that God once again had not brought me all the way here with this beautiful family and this amazing husband and these children that just fill me with so much love. He could not have brought me through all these blessings to be like, poof. You know, faith is not always easy, and it's especially not easy if you're sleeping in your car, if you're sleeping in the park, or if you're just worried about how you're going to pay next month's rent or mortgage, or if you've been sick or you don't have a job. Faith is really, really hard, because faith is you looking beyond the situation and feeling hope. And when you're in it, that is so incredibly hard. But I want you to just try to draw something from my story, and knowing me or not knowing me, maybe you share this with somebody else, but I just promise you, I want to tell you, I am not a perfect person, and I do not lead a perfect life. I make mistakes. I'm the grand poobah of screwing up at times, certainly when I was younger. But none of that means that I'm not loved by my God, or maybe a higher power for you, or something else. But I'm not lost and forgotten, okay? So this is my testimony to you of not only my faith, but that everything was fully restored, that there was truth in that saying that God only shuts one door to open another door. Like when you're having a hard time, like that is the biggest kick in the teeth. But I just want you to know, in this one story here, and I've got a million, okay? But this is the newest one for me, is that all of those things can truly be fully restored in your life, and even better. Because that's something else I say, is this or something better. And I don't know more how to express to you that when faith started guiding me and I put faith in something more than just my dango self, that's when I knew for sure that everything was going to be all right. So if you need some kind of faith in your life right now, and you want me to pray for you, or you want me to speak to you in some way, there's a lot of ways to contact me. Because I want you to know that if you have the faith, if you can just start putting little faith pennies in your jar, that by the time you get it full, there's gonna be restoration on the other side for you. And that restoration is gonna come into this full sense of glory that, if you're like me, is gonna overwhelm you so much you can't even recognize the joy in this situation, because you can't believe that it happened for you. But that victory is possible for all of us. And I want you to know that it's possible for all of us. And I'm not trying to get you on my wagon. I just want you to know that a little bit of faith and a little bit of belief and hope in life, the universe, God, your higher power, whatever it is very, very capable of bringing you restoration and the victory that you need to get on and do all the awesome things that you're meant to do in this life. And I love you, and I'm so, so grateful to get to be here with you. And I still got a lot of garden stuff to share with you, and I got a lot of other cool things to share with you. And I'm real humbled and grateful for the space that you allow me to share with you. And if I spoke to your heart today, definitely let me know down in the comments. And if you need some encouragement, I'm always here for you. So I'm excited to share with you this news, and I hope that you were moved in any way by my testimony for you today, and that your life is blessed by your faith, and that you're adorned with restoration and so many victories, because there is something good on the other side of these last 2 years, and it may be a longer journey than that you've been on. So have the best day ever, friends.